Single mom, alone with 1.57, revealed a heartwarming surprise from a CEO. You'll be inspired. Sarah sat at the greasy counter of the diner, her fingers wrapped around a chipped mug that emitted a weak cloud of steam mixed with the lingering scent of burnt coffee. Today, like every other day, the weight of her responsibilities bore down on her. With only 1.57 in her pocket and bills spilling over like an avalanche waiting to crash, she felt trapped in a cycle that threatened to consume her. The sound of the train whistle echoed in the distance, a haunting reminder of her childhood and the dreams that once sparked joy. In the back of her mind, she felt that if she could somehow break free, life could be more than just a constant struggle. Her heart raced when she overheard some bustling patrons chatting about a mentorship program launched by Mark Thompson, the town's tech CEO, designed to empower locals like her. This time, hope flickered inside her, a stark contrast to the fatigue that enveloped her during long hours at the diner and the cleaning service. Was this it? A real chance to step out of her relentless grind for her son, Tommy? He deserved more than cold dinners and worn-out sneakers. His innocent laughter filled their cramped apartment, a reminder of the light in her otherwise dim world. Drenched in determination, she imagined Tommy's future college, friends, opportunities. She envisioned their life changing. With every keystroke on the application, a whisper of self-doubt intruded. Who do you think you are? She pushed back tears and drew strength from Tommy's favorite superhero t-shirt draped over her mind like a cloak of courage. Before she could send in her application, a bureaucratic hiccup sent her heart plummeting. The system glitched, and her submission vanished into the void. Irregular breaths filled her lungs as frustration surged like fire through her veins. It felt incredibly unfair, clawing at her insides. This was yet another insurmountable obstacle holding her back. She recalled her mother's voice, a firm echo that urged her to confront challenges with honesty and relentless effort. But maybe her mother never had to face struggles this overwhelming. Did she even have what it took to change their fate? In a moment of desperate clarity, she made a choice. With trembling hands, she decided to take a risk and seek out Mark Thompson himself. Every instinct told her to turn back, dissolve into the shadows of her small-town existence, but the image of Tommy's hopeful smile propelled her forward. As she stood outside his imposing glass-walled office, her heart pounded. The unexpected sight of a photograph on the wall stopped her cold. Her mother's familiar smile, so warm yet distant, stood next to Mark's father. Waves of realization crashed over her. Could this connection lead to a lifeline in her struggle? As they locked eyes in that moment, all her fears converged. She felt the past entwined with her present, a powerful collision that threatened to shatter her internal barriers. Would Mark remember her family? In that single moment, everything hinged on her ability to voice the life-altering thoughts she clutched tightly. Every nerve pulsed with tension, her resolve trembling like the flickering flame of her hope. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Would this connection draw her closer to a lifeline or push her further into the abyss? Facing Mark felt like stepping onto a tightrope, her uncertain future dangling below. As she opened her mouth to speak, the world around her faded, leaving only Mark's piercing gaze and her own spiraling anxiety. With everything hanging in the balance, she hovered at the edge of possibility, vulnerability gripping her. Would she reclaim her family legacy, or was she destined to sink deeper into the sea of hardship? Sarah's breath caught at the precipice of the moment that could define her life. Every doubt that had plagued her flooded back, the what-ifs spiraled in her mind. But in the depths of her anxiety, something shifted. A determination began to rise. She recalled her mother's unwavering strength, the woman who had carved out a life with little more than hope and resilience. Was it in her blood, this ability to confront adversity? With a strained exhale, Sarah summoned every ounce of bravery she could muster. "Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice quivering but resolute. I know our families have a history, and I didn't mean to intrude, but her words faltered, each syllable thickening with the weight of her fears. She glanced at the photograph again, seeking an anchor. I need help. Mark's expression softened, and curiosity mixed with concern drew his brow together. Help? With what exactly? His tone was sincere, prompting her to lay her heart bare. Swallowing hard, she pressed on, I'm a single mother, struggling to keep afloat. I just learned about your mentorship program, and I had applied, but it slipped through the cracks. She hesitated, the edge of desperation giving rise to resolve. I'm willing to work for this. I want to give my son a better life. As the words spilled forth, each one lifted the veil of despair she had worn like a shroud. In that small office, it felt as if Sarah stood naked before him, not just in her struggles, but in her vulnerability, her yearning, and her hopes. Mark regarded her thoughtfully. That's a courageous outlook, Sarah. Tell me more about your vision. It was as if a dam had broken. She shared her aspirations for Tommy, how she dreamt of him flourishing in an environment free from the chains of poverty. She conveyed her wish to gain skills, to rise in a world that often felt cold and unwelcoming. Each word breathed life into her vision, making it echo in that sterile room where dreams teetered on the edge of reality. Then, unexpectedly, Mark leaned back in his chair, studying her with a mix of admiration and contemplation. You've got spirit, Sarah. I like that. He paused, seemingly weighing his next words carefully. What if you come to the office next week for an interview? We can explore how to align your strengths with what we need at the company. The sudden shift in his demeanor sent her heart racing. An interview? A tangible opportunity? It felt surreal, unfamiliar, yet tantalizing. Yet, a gnawing fear crept in. Was this merely a fleeting moment of kindness, or would she fail to make the most of it? Mark continued, this isn't going to be easy. We work hard here. But if you commit, I can see where this could take you. The sternness of his words crashed against her doubt, buoying her spirit amidst the uncertainty. I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah replied, the resolute fire of conviction rekindling in her. I won't let my son down. As she walked out of that office, a strange cocktail of exhilaration and dread surged within her. The path ahead was rocky and unsure, yet it pulsed with potential. Could she truly do this? Her mind raced with visions of her future intertwining with Tommy's, an ascent into a life where struggle was a prelude, not a conclusion, but soon enough, her thoughts turned dark again, plagued by questions of whether she could rise to meet the expectations Mark had just laid upon her shoulders. Doubt encroached like a shadow, whispering persistent concerns in her ear. What if it was all too much? What if she wasn't enough? The echo of Tommy's laughter floated through her mind, igniting the embers of purpose once more. She refused to falter now. As she stepped back into the world, the sun peeked through the clouds, illuminating her path ahead. A spark of determination ignited anew. She would navigate this new world, unravel her hidden strengths, and prove that her struggles were merely stepping stones to success. But as she turned the corner, the weight of the interview loomed ominously in her thoughts. What would happen if she didn't impress? What if she faltered when the moment came? The time had come to face the hardest part of her journey yet, to know if she could truly harness her potential and set her life on a definitive path. As dawn broke a week later, Sarah stood in front of her mirror, rehearsing her pitch in muted tones. I'm capable. I'm ready. The self-assurances barely masked the tremor in her voice. In the quiet of that moment, she was a tapestry of conflicting emotions, fear woven tightly with resolve. The sun's rays peeked through the window, illuminating her reflection, a woman poised on the edge of change, yet haunted by the weight of uncertainty. The day of the interview arrived like a tidal wave, crashing into her routine and sending her thoughts spiraling. She prepared meticulously, poring over potential questions and her answers until each felt rehearsed to perfection. However, the pressure to perform intensified with every second. What if she faltered? What if her facade of confidence shattered under scrutiny? She fought against that gnawing sensation of impending failure, forcing herself to envision a future built on her newfound opportunities. Navigating the streets toward the office, Sarah's heart raced with each step. She could hear the pulse of her aspirations in her ears, the rhythm matching the quickening of her heartbeat. For the first time in long months, she envisioned a career, not just a job. Mark's initial support echoed in her mind, a lighthouse guiding her through fog. But the flickering doubts tried to cloud that beacon. Was she truly equipped to rise to the occasion? Upon arriving, the bustling office was intimidating. Lively conversations filled the air, interspersed with the clicking of keyboards. It felt like entering a world she scarcely belonged to. Yet, Sarah swallowed her fear. She didn't come this far to back down. She had fought too hard for too long. The colors of her memories, the warmth of Tommy's laughter, the hope in her mother's unwavering determination fueled her. As she stepped into the conference room, Mark was already seated, a calm authority in his demeanor. Present with him were two other members of the team, each carefully observing her entry. A wave of anxiety washed over Sarah, but she leveled her gaze. If she faltered now, she would just be reinforcing the narrative that had haunted her life too long. "Sarah, thank you for coming," Mark began, gesturing to an empty chair. As she sat down, she felt the weight of their expectations torque around her. "You've impressed me with your previous discussion, and I want to see if you can match that conviction with experience." The interview unfolded like an intricate dance, a rhythm of questions and answers, where she addressed her vision and articulated her drive. Mark nodded frequently, but the intensity of the other team members' stares clawed at her confidence. A question hit hard: what would you consider your greatest weakness? A brief silence loomed, and anxiety flared in her chest. Wisps of vulnerability flickered through her thoughts. "I've always struggled with self-doubt, it's like a persistent echo in my head," she responded honestly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her core. "But I've come to realize that it can also be my motivator. I want to transform that doubt into strength, for myself and my son." Mark exchanged glances with his colleagues, a criticism flickering in his eye. For just a moment it felt like he was weighing her words against an unyielding scale of judgment. Fear clutched her throat, but she pressed on. "If I am going to navigate this journey successfully, I need to confront my limitations directly. I refuse to let them define me." The interview morphed, becoming less about questions and more about the unadorned truth of who she was, a woman grappling with fears but refusing to let them dictate her life. The room filled with an unexpected silence as they absorbed her authenticity. When it wrapped up, Mark leaned forward. "That was a compelling answer, Sarah. You're not just presenting yourself, you're revealing a deeper understanding of what it means to evolve and grow. It shows great potential in a field where adaptability is key." Her heart raced. His words were like sunlight breaking through clouds, but beneath that glimmer of hope lay a fresh wave of dread. Had she said enough? Would it be enough to break through the wall of corporate expectations? As she exited the office, the adrenaline coursed through her veins like a raging river. She had fought through this battleground of fear and potential. Yet, the nagging apprehension remained. Had she truly revealed her best self, or merely scratched the surface? Days passed, and still no word came. Each moment of waiting felt heavy, laden with introspection. The leap she took had placed her at a crossroads, questioning everything about her journey. The following morning, her phone buzzed relentlessly. As she opened the text, an unexpected thrill surged through her. It wasn't just any message, it was Mark's name flashing on her screen, coupled with an invitation to meet, an invitation that tightly wrapped hope and uncertainty into a single package. Could this be the promise of a new beginning, or would it unravel into another thread of disappointment? The answer loomed just out of reach, igniting the fear of yet another life-altering moment. As morning light flooded her kitchen, Sarah felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension swirling within her. The message from Mark had stirred something dormant, awakening her desire for growth alongside the creeping fear of it all vanishing in an instant. She reflected on her whirlwind interview as she fixed herself a cup of coffee, hoping the warmth would soothe the unease threading through her core. It had been exhilarating facing her doubts head-on, yet now, uncertainty gnawed at her. After pacing the kitchen, she decided to approach the meeting with a mindset structured by possibility rather than dread. The last week of waiting had been torturous, as self-doubt crept back into her consciousness like a thief in the night. She set her cup down and stared out the window, trying to align her thoughts. This meeting was more than just a follow-up, it was a chance to lay the groundwork for a future rooted in personal and professional evolution. As she gathered her notes and dressed purposefully, Sarah worked through the scenarios in her mind. Was Mark's invitation to meet solely a courtesy, or did it carry weight? Each potential outcome painted a picture that either filled her with hope or threatened to push her back into a dark corner of despair. Arriving at the office felt surreal. The place hummed with life, yet today, it felt different. Sarah concentrated on her breathing, determined to quell the nerves that surged with every step closer to the conference room. She resonated with the notion of transformation, from someone who allowed life as circumstances to dictate her path to a woman ready to seize her potential. Mark welcomed her with a smile, his demeanor warm yet professional. "Thank you for coming back so soon, Sarah," he said, gesturing for her to sit. Immediately, she felt an undeniable shift in the energy. This wasn't merely about a job, it was about recognition of her tenacity, her drive, and undeniable potential. "After our last conversation, I had a chance to reflect on your candidness and determination," Mark began. "You describe your weaknesses as motivators. That's a skill rare indeed. But I also sense there's something deeper you're striving for." A rush of adrenaline coursed through Sarah. There it was, the opportunity to be honest about her ambitions yet again. Did he truly see past the surface? She felt a flicker of vulnerability as she responded, "I want to build a legacy, both for my son and for myself. I want to show him that hard work is its own form of reward." As she spoke, surprising clarity emerged, and she began to grasp the full weight of her circumstances. This wasn't just about a title or a salary, it was about setting an example. Mark leaned forward, engaged. "What would you say is the core of that legacy?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, she struggled to articulate it. But then, it clicked. The humanity of her journey infused her words with clarity. "I want to show him resilience, that despite facing hardship, we can redefine our paths. We can choose to act with purpose." In her vulnerability, she had struck a chord, not just with Mark, but perhaps with herself too. He nodded thoughtfully, assessing her words as if peering through the layers of her experiences. "You see, Sarah, we need that kind of perspective on our team. The ability to reframe challenges as opportunities for growth is invaluable." There was a pause. Sarah held her breath, the weight of his words inviting hope. Yet, just as quickly, the gnawing doubt surged again. Was he simply indulging her? The tension mounted in those moments. Then, with a seriousness that shifted the atmosphere, Mark said, "How would you feel about working directly on a specific project we're launching this quarter? It's an opportunity that could fast-track your involvement in our team." Her heart raced, emotions swirling. This was the pivotal moment. She had been looking for the chance to display her capabilities on a larger canvas. Sarah felt her mouth twitch. She wasn't ready to give a definitive answer yet. Instead, her mind whirred with thoughts about how such a chance could change everything. As they discussed the project in more detail, Sarah's excitement swelled, though she couldn't shake the fear of inadequacy clawing at her thoughts. Could she truly make a difference? Would her past struggles now be her strength? Just as the meeting was about to reach its conclusion, Mark added thoughtfully, "Your background brings a unique perspective that could heavily influence our work. You could be the type of leader who not only drives results but inspires others to rise above their limitations." The weight of those words sunk in, igniting something deep within. Yet, even with the glow of possibilities surrounding her, another thought pierced through: the commitment this would require from her. A thread of excitement clashed with internal skepticism. Was she ready for this level of responsibility? As they wrapped up, Mark's final question resonated like an echo through her mind: "Are you ready to embrace this opportunity?" Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the heavy gravity of the moment. The answer lay tantalizingly out of reach, yet undeniably within the realm of her grasp. Facing that uncertainty, she realized next steps would not just define her career but would shake the very foundations of her self-belief. The moment stretched on, her mind racing with possibilities. As the question loomed, could she take this leap of faith, or was she destined to hold back, forever wondering what could have been? The air in the conference room felt charged as Sarah maintained eye contact with Mark, the weight of his question heavy between them. She could almost hear her heartbeat echoing in her ears, its rhythm creating a counterpoint to the fervent whispers of self-doubt. This was pivotal. The leap Mark presented could either affirm her journey or push her deeper into the shadows of her uncertainty. "Are you ready to embrace this opportunity?" he repeated, eyes steady and encouraging. She inhaled deeply, grappling with the implications of her response. The choice lay at her feet, to seize the potential of leadership and growth, or retreat back to the familiar confines of her previous fears. Images of her son floated through her mind, his innocent smile serving as a stark reminder of why she desired more. Each moment of indecision gnawed at her resolve, pushing her closer to an edge she had long feared. "I need to think about it," she finally managed, the words escaping her like a lifeline. They had taken on a strange gravity, both a rejection and a protective shield. She felt conflicted as Mark nodded, his expression softening, but she also sensed the door closing slightly behind her. "Of course," he replied, maintaining his professional demeanor. "Take your time, but remember, risks often lead to the greatest rewards." As she left the conference room, a storm of thoughts surged within her. Clarity illuminated her path, but shadows of doubt lingered, whispering insidious thoughts. She had fought tooth and nail to overcome her past, and yet, there was still this lingering fear of failure, of not being enough. She had felt that weight when accepting her circumstances as a single mother, yet today it stung with a different intensity. Questioning her worthiness plagued her thoughts. Could she create the legacy she spoke of, or was she merely a dreamer in a world that demanded more than she had? The flush of adrenaline mixed with uncertainty as she navigated the bustling office corridors. Each interaction reminded her of the formidable landscape of corporate life, a place where success felt like a distant oasis. On her ride home, Sarah's mind raced, playing the day's events on repeat. Thoughts of the project Mark had proposed consumed her, the potential to lead, to make a tangible impact. Did she possess what it took? Her stomach twisted at the thought of facing team challenges, an all too familiar anxiety creeping into her veins. She envisioned late nights spent strategizing, countless meetings filled with critical opinions, all leading to the risk of failure. It felt monumental. Sitting at the dinner table with her son later that night, she managed a smile, though her mind remained elsewhere. He chattered about his day, innocence radiating from him like sunlight through clouds. A pang of guilt hit her as she realized her internal struggle might dim the brightness of his joy. "What's wrong, Mom?" he finally asked, ceaselessly observant, an ability she'd always admired. Caught off guard, Sarah hesitated. Should she share her fears or shield him from the weight of adult anxieties? "Just thinking about work," she replied, opting for a gentle deflection. That evening, as she tucked him into bed, a more profound realization anchored her resolve. Sarah longed to instill resilience in her son, to teach him that authenticity often sprouted from moments of vulnerability. If she wanted him to be fearless in pursuing his dreams, she first had to model that courage herself. The following morning, she poured herself a cup of coffee, the aroma igniting a spark of renewed determination. Flicking open her laptop, Sarah began to draft a proposal for the project. As she typed, ideas flowed, every keystroke transformed uncertainty into possibility. The dread was still there, but it melded with a sense of purpose. Just as she finished typing the last sentence, her phone buzzed with an email notification, pulling her focus. It was a message from Mark, a follow-up, perhaps. The subject line read, "Follow up on our conversation." An electric jolt of anticipation surged through her as she clicked the email open. Did this indicate urgency? Questions dashed through her mind as she felt the pull of her professional aspirations colliding with her personal boundaries. Was this her moment to step forward boldly, or would it signal the beginning of more complications? In that moment, she understood that the next decision wouldn't merely shape her career, it had the power to redefine her identity, steering her toward an evolution she had only begun to fathom. And as she read the first line, time held its breath, her heart pounding with the promise of change. This was at the moment where self-discovery and opportunity converged, where she stood on the brink of redefining everything she thought possible. What awaited her beyond those words? The message from Mark was brief but impactful, the kind of communication that demanded both attention and reflection. "I'd like to discuss the project further if you're interested. Let's set up a time." The weight of his words settled around her shoulders like a cloak, both burdensome and invigorating. Sarah felt a flicker of excitement punctured by the familiar ache of self-doubt. The invitation had the potential to catapult her into a leadership role or unravel her entire sense of self-worth. After closing her laptop, she paced the kitchen. Thoughts tumbled over one another, each vying for dominance. Should she reply immediately and show her enthusiasm? What if she wasn't ready to commit to such a significant endeavor? There was so much at stake. This opportunity felt like a tightrope walk. One misstep and she could plummet into the depths of inadequacy she had fought so hard to escape. And the stillness of her home, the whir of the refrigerator provided a steady backdrop to her internal chaos. Every corner reminded her that the fragile structure of her life had been delicately built on moments like these. Her son's laughter echoed faintly from his room, a sound that both comforted and tormented her. It became increasingly clear that this decision was more than career advancement, it was about the legacy of resilience she intended to cultivate in him. Taking a deep breath, Sarah made a decision. She would take this leap, but first, she needed more clarity. An initial response should reflect her eagerness while also expressing a need for understanding. She sat down and crafted her email. The more she typed, the more she felt the grip of anxiety loosen. It was astonishing how putting words to her thoughts transformed them into manageable concepts rather than insurmountable obstacles. Upon sending the email, Sarah felt a rush of relief, both exhilarating and terrifying. Moments later, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, scrutinizing her reflection. Did she see a leader staring back at her? Or merely a woman still cloaked in shades of uncertainty? The conflict churned within her. Leadership wasn't just about authority. It was about decision-making, gripping control of chaos without losing oneself in the process. At work the next day, an air of anticipation wove through the corridors. Sarah sensed change lurking just out of sight, and she was determined to grasp it. She had prepared meticulously for their meeting, sketching out potential strategies and anticipating challenges. As she settled into the conference room once more, she lined her thoughts with the clear resolve forged in the stillness of her home. Mark entered with a bright smile, his demeanor radiating confidence. They exchanged pleasantries before he shifted focus. "I appreciate your prompt response. Your insights in our last meeting were really valuable." His recognition sparked something within her. Perhaps she did have a place at this table, perhaps she was more capable than she had ever thought possible. As they delved into the details of the project, Sarah found herself animatedly discussing her ideas. Each suggestion echoed with determination, her voice punctuated by newfound authority. She was engaged in a dance of intellect and intuition, and the shadows of doubt began to dissipate, absorbed by the light of potential. Yet as the conversation progressed, so too did a different kind of challenge. Mark began to directly probe her thoughts on team dynamics, and Sarah hesitated. What if her instincts were wrong? What if they didn't align with his vision? Her initial confidence flickered, and she felt the pervasive weight of self-doubt clawing its way back, whispering insidious threats of inadequacy. In that moment of vulnerability, her mind racing with the specter of criticism, she realized this was a defining juncture. Would she succumb to the fear of failure or lean into the uncomfortable space of honest discussion? Sarah squared her shoulders. She took a breath and chose to confront the dilemma head-on, bridging the chasm between doubt and possibility. "Mark. While I have some ideas, I think we need to explore them more collaboratively with the team. I want everyone to feel invested in the outcome." The sincerity in her words surprised even her, grounding her in a place of authenticity. The moment hung in the air as Mark absorbed her perspective. There it was again, the tension of uncertainty mingling with the thrill of embracing a more assertive identity. Sarah knew that this was only the beginning. As the pair continued discussing strategies and values, she recognized that the challenge ahead would test not just her professional capabilities but also the very fabric of who she was becoming. Each question posed by Mark resonated, signaling a pivotal shift, and with it came a frightening clarity. She was no longer merely a participant in her life story, she was an author rewriting her narrative. What she didn't yet know was how the revelations in this meeting would redefine not only her career but also her understanding of resilience. That evolution was just beginning, and as she left that room, the overwhelming question loomed: how far was she willing to go to embrace this emergent self? The days that followed the meeting with Mark unfolded like the pages of a well-worn book, ink blurring, chapters intertwining with tension and anticipation. Sarah navigated an increasingly complex landscape of emotions as she slipped into her role as a collaborator in the project. With each strategy session, she felt as if she were standing on the cusp of something monumental. Yet, like an uninvited guest, self-doubt lingered in the shadows, eager to nudge her back into familiar territory. At home, she noticed the subtle changes in her routine. The moments of quiet turned into vortexes of reflection. Her son's laughter was now an echo of her own aspirations. She found herself questioning whether this newfound assertiveness would protect her from old failures or plunge her into deeper waters. When he approached her with a random question, asking if she was happy, she paused. It was an innocent inquiry, yet it sliced through her facade. Was she genuinely happy, or merely pretending to be for the sake of consistency? Work became a crucible, refining her thoughts and skills under pressure. During one session, a colleague, Jessica, presented an idea that was met with enthusiasm from others but left Sarah feeling displaced. She couldn't shake the sensation of being inadequate, as if everybody else were marching in sync while she faltered in her own rhythm. Suddenly, the very collaboration she sought became a source of apprehension. The shadows of inadequacy reappeared, whispering critiques that gnawed at her confidence. "Sarah, how about your thoughts on the feedback we received?" Mark's voice sliced through her introspection during the next meeting, jolting her to the present. The meeting room was filled with the anticipation of minds hungry for engagement, and all eyes were on her. She hesitated, her pulse racing as she scanned the room. To speak or not to speak? Questions morphed into a phrase of self-preservation. What if they dismiss my ideas? Yet, a spark of conviction flickered within her. She had committed to exploring possibilities collaboratively, and perhaps this was the chance to test that belief. "I think we should consider Jessica's idea, but let us also think about how we can integrate additional feedback from the team. A broader view might strengthen our proposal." The confidence that had felt so foreign now surged through her, pushing her to stand tall. As her words settled into the air, a sense of peace enveloped her. There it was, authenticity, unmasked and raw, like finding a long-lost fragment of herself. The appreciative nod from Mark signaled not just approval but a recognition of her growth. It was small, but it reinforced a budding self-awareness. She could hold her ground without the pretense of perfection. With each meeting, Sarah engaged more deeply, allowing her instincts to guide her toward fruitful discussions. The dialogue flowed more freely. The collaboration no longer felt like a performance but a genuine exchange of ideas. But lurking behind her triumphs were moments of disquietude. Every time the project made strides, there was a nagging suspicion that questioned whether she was capable of sustaining this new reality. In an effort to anchor her burgeoning confidence, Sarah sought out a mentor within her organization, someone who had climbed the ranks while maintaining empathy for her peers. She reached out to Rebecca, a revered leader known for her insight and support. Over a steaming cup of coffee, they shared stories of struggles and triumphs, where Rebecca laid bare the doubts that had mirrored Sarah's, trapping her in a web of uncertainty. "Embrace your voice, Sarah. Our vulnerabilities don't make us weak, they paint the full picture of who we are. It's your authenticity that will resonate with the team," Rebecca advised, her tone both nurturing and blunt. It was the first time someone had reframed her fears as assets, inviting Sarah to reconsider her approach toward both leadership and self-acceptance. As the weeks unfolded, Sarah remained vigilant about her journey, documenting her thoughts in a journal, scrupulously unraveling the threads of self-discovery. Each entry was an exercise in vulnerability, becoming a compass to navigate the uncharted waters she had chosen. But amid the introspection, something profound began to emerge. Her perception of success was slowly shifting from accolades to something much deeper, fulfillment and authenticity. Was this new identity robust enough to withstand the inevitable challenges yet to greet her? As Sarah closed the journal, she wrestled with the thought that perhaps embracing failure could be her greatest asset in becoming a leader. The question loomed large as the project neared its deadline: could she truly let go of the fear of being scrutinized to become an authentic leader, or would her past catapult her back into the shadows? Sarah tightened her grip on the pen, the ink flowing with fervor, each stroke a proclamation of her commitment to the journey ahead. She was about to settle into a pivotal moment of realization, but first, she had to confront the elephant in the room. Could she handle what lay on the other side of this journey? Days passed as Sarah navigated the everyday ups and downs of both work and home life, a delicate balancing act that often left her feeling overwhelmed. She could feel her growing confidence battling the familiar chains of self-doubt that had defined much of her previous existence. Every day at work brought new challenges, but it also exposed her vulnerabilities in ways that were both frightening and liberating. During a late afternoon brainstorming session, Mark asked her to lead the discussion on the latest project strategy. The sudden shift in responsibility triggered a panic, the cold grip of fear wrapping around her throat like a vice. Voices from her past echoed in her mind, taunting her, "You don't belong here." But amid the chaos of competing thoughts, something stronger fought back: her resolve to embody the leader Rebecca believed she could become. "Let us prioritize what aligns with our team's strengths while addressing the feedback we received," she said, surprising even herself with the clarity in her voice. As she spoke, a shift occurred in the room. Her colleagues leaned forward, intrigued. The obstacles she had conjured in her mind dissipated, replaced by a shared curiosity and collaboration. As the meeting wrapped up, Jessica approached her. "You really held the floor today, Sarah. I didn't expect that from you." Rather than brushing off the compliment, Sarah savored it, allowing it to sink into her consciousness. Maybe there was room for her voice, her genuine input amid the chorus of opinions floating around the conference table. Later that evening, seated on the couch with her son as they attempted his homework, she felt their connection deepen. Their conversation started shifting beyond surface-level chatter about school to more meaningful discussions about dreams, aspirations, and what it meant to fail. "Mom, what happens if you make a mistake?" he asked, looking up from his math sheet. "It's okay to make mistakes," she replied slowly, considering her own recent revelations. "That's how we learn and grow." Her son's eyes widened with surprise. "Even you?" "Especially me," Sarah said, feeling the warmth of honesty swell inside her. In that moment, her past failures transformed from something shameful into valuable lessons that shaped who she was becoming. The next day at work, Sarah decided she would become proactive about her fears. After some deliberation, she scheduled a one-on-one meeting with Mark, wanting to express her struggles with self-confidence and to seek his advice. The minute she walked into his office, the knot of apprehension tightened in her chest, but with every word, it loosened. "Mark, I've been grappling with my contributions and sometimes feel overshadowed by more assertive personalities." Rather than brush her concerns aside, he listened intently. "Sarah, it's brave of you to acknowledge that. Remember, what only matters is how you integrate your ideas and experiences with those around you. Your perspective is unique, and that's your strength. Take ownership of that." His words reverberated in her mind long after she left his office. She began to realize that her journey wouldn't simply be about outshining others, it would involve cultivating her individuality as a vital part of the team. As the project deadline loomed near, Sarah faced a tumultuous tide of anxiety. So much had shifted in her journey, yet the fear of failure still lingered. Daring to trust the newfound foothold she had found, she committed to approaching her leadership role from an authentic place, rather than a place of pretense. On the day of the project presentation, her heart thudded in her chest and her palms were slick with sweat. But as she walked into the boardroom, a calm settled within her. For the first time, she felt prepared and ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. What she didn't know was that the culmination of her effort would soon lead to an unforeseen crisis, testing her newfound belief in herself like never before. Each decision she faced would demand the very authenticity she had fought to claim, igniting a battle within her she had yet to fully comprehend. Could she withstand the storm brewing just over the horizon? The moment of truth fast approached. The boardroom was silent, the air thick with anticipation as Sarah glanced around the table at the faces of her colleagues. They were counting on her, and she could feel the weight of their expectations pressed down on her shoulders. Despite the calm she had found only moments before, a flash of doubt threatened to flicker to life. Was she truly ready for this? The presentation unfolded as she clicked through slides she had meticulously prepared. Each point eloquently illustrated the project's purpose and how their team's combined efforts had contributed to its success. As she reached the conclusion, a sudden flicker of uncertainty consumed her. Could her vision really resonate? Gripping the edge of the podium, she forged ahead, reminding herself of the words she had come to understand. It was her unique perspective they were valuing. The questions that followed were sharper than she anticipated. How do you address the challenges outlined in the feedback from the last review? One board member probed, eyes fixed steadily on her. Sarah's heart raced. This was the moment that could either solidify her position or topple her decidedly newfound confidence. Realizing it was all too easy to revert to the timid Sarah she once was, she glanced down at her notes but instead rebuffed the habitual urge to seek refuge in them. We must learn from every critique, she stated, her voice unwavering. Feedback is a tool for growth, and I believe we can turn those challenges into opportunities by fostering even stronger collaboration within our team. As she spoke, a transformation unfolded. The doubts ebbed away, replaced by a palpable sense of empowerment, her own authentic voice breaking through. She noted the shifted dynamics in the room, eyes brightened, heads nodded. Perhaps there was strength in vulnerability after all. When the session ended, her colleagues dispersed, murmuring varying tones of support. But one voice echoed profoundly in her mind, Mark's voice. Would he see this as the change he'd envisioned for her? She breathed deep, trying to quell the lingering uncertainty that whispered it was enough. Just as she considered leaving the boardroom, Mark appeared, and that familiar warmth spread through her once more. You've come a long way, Sarah. Today was a pivotal moment, and you handled it well. But remember, it's just the beginning. He leaned against the table, a thoughtful expression overtaking his features. However, I noticed you hesitated when faced with critiques. You have to embrace the discomfort rather than shy away from it. His feedback sliced through her apprehensions. The crux of her journey was to confront those moments of unease directly, to stand tall despite them. That night, alone at her kitchen table, swirling a cup of tea between her hands, she reflected on what Mark had said. What strategies could she employ to confront her hesitations head-on? Could she transform feedback into a foundation rather than a fear? Here, in the stillness of her home, her sanctuary, she scribbled notes of plans to strengthen herself. A commitment to fortify her self-belief while actively seeking feedback rather than avoiding it, but in the back of her mind, she felt the weight of the impending storm looming closer. Little did she know that an unexpected twist was waiting just around the corner, one that would force her to confront not only her anxieties but her identity in ways she never anticipated. As she prepared to pivot towards her future steps, Sarah could feel the tremors of change just beneath the surface, ready to burst forth. Could she embrace the storm, or would it swallow her whole? The answers awaited, just over the horizon. The weeks buzzed with a frenetic energy, igniting new aspirations within Sarah. Navigating her role at the tech company gradually transformed her, subtly reshaping the contours of her identity. She felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes of her past struggles, with every week embedded in challenges that pushed her limits. Now, as she prepared for the culmination of the project, an unfamiliar sense of ease washed over her. She wasn't merely there to follow orders, she held the reins in her hands. On the morning of the presentation, Sarah approached the boardroom equipped with a newfound resolve. The anticipated tension clung to the air, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of excitement. Today wasn't just about demonstrating her capabilities but solidifying the identity she'd crafted amidst uncertainty. As she delivered her presentation, her voice resonated with that confident clarity she'd slowly cultivated, each point an affirmation of her journey, supported by the insights of her collaborative team. When the session concluded, she didn't merely receive applause, she felt something richer, a validation through the shared pride reflected in her colleagues' eyes. Instead of evaporating amid the myriad opinions, her voice had emerged as a guiding presence throughout the discussion. Mark leaned over, offering a salute of approval, grounding her accomplishments. However, just as she began envisioning perhaps a promotion or more significant responsibilities, a storm brewed. An unexpected financial downturn hit the company. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shifted. The project she had poured her heart into faced delays, and the prospect of layoffs loomed ominous on the horizon. As the implications set in, dread threatened to creep back into her consciousness, shattering the innovations of her revived confidence. Standing in front of her son later that evening, a cloud of worry hovering over her, she spoke softly, "Tommy, sometimes things change unexpectedly, like a storm hitting without warning, right?" He looked at her with innocent confusion, his little brow furrowing in concern. "Mom, are you going to be okay?" His question pierced through the veil of uncertainty. In that moment, Sarah realized she had to embody the resilience she preached. "Yes, honey. Remember, storms pass. And just like we take shelter during one, we can find our way through this together." It was an affirmation not just for him but for herself. Renewed clarity settled over her. Sarah took action, meeting with Mark to devise contingency strategies for the project, fostering a transparent dialogue with her colleagues about their fears and ideas. Rather than retreat into fear, she transformed the looming crisis into opportunities for collaboration and support. The tentative discussions morphed into a rallying call for innovative pathways forward, igniting a collective commitment within the team. As weeks passed, their perseverance turned what initially felt daunting into fruitful directions. Once cast in shadows, Sarah's steadfast approach prompted others to open up about their concerns, creating a culture of open communication. This wasn't merely due to the novelty of her ideas but the authenticity with which she addressed the hardship they faced. Together, they streamlined their efforts to mitigate the damages, demonstrating an uncommon resolve that surged through the group. And then, unexpectedly, larger decisions loomed at the corporate level, demanding a fearless approach from each team. It was a pivotal junction. Mark approached Sarah, eyes swathed in a mixture of concern and resilience. "I believe you should lead those discussions, Sarah. Your understanding of the project and the team is unparalleled." The apprehension momentarily seized her. Could she still step into leadership's deeper, more turbulent waters? But a pulse of instinct surged within. Her journey thus far had prepared her for this very moment. "Let us do this," she declared firmly, a smile breaking the surface of unease. That was her moment of transformation where existence morphed into resilience. Murmurs of self-doubt silenced by the drumbeat of determination. Upon announcing her strategies to management, she captivated the boardroom not through an authoritative stance, but with grounded humility. Each proposal emanated a sense of purpose, evolving the atmosphere from anxiety to empowerment. As questions flew and concerns were raised, she didn't shy away from the discomfort. Instead, she leaned into it. "Every challenge is a stepping stone," she emphasized, "and together, we'll navigate this unpredictability with collaboration." Her ability to face uncertainty rekindled a collective strength, creating a dynamic that not only shielded her team from impending fallout but fostered a renewed commitment. Weeks later, when the storm had ebbed, the company stabilized and emerged not merely intact, but with strengthened foundations. The commitment to transparency and shared purpose had bridged a chasm that once threatened their survival. Mark's voice echoed in the hallway one day, pulling her away from contemplative thoughts. "Sarah, I've sought advice on leadership paths, and their unanimous response pointed toward you. Could you come by my office later?" With a heart buoyed by confidence, she walked into Mark's office. "I want to offer you a leadership role across the new projects we're launching. You've demonstrated not only capability but an innate ability to inspire those around you. We consider you a key player moving forward. Will you accept this position?" In that moment, validation of her growth cascaded through her. "Yes, I accept, Mark. Let us build something exceptional together." The weight of her past struggles transformed into a symbol of strength, her fingerprints now irrevocably etched into the narrative of her life. As Sarah walked out of the office, a radiant sense of fulfillment enveloped her. She had conquered self-doubt and uncertainty, revealing the leader nursed quietly within, all to embrace a brighter future alongside her son. Together, they would navigate whatever lay ahead, a legacy rooted in resilience. Now, as you reflect on Sarah's journey from antipathy and uncertainty to empowerment and achievement, what will your next steps be? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the power of this message.